Thank you for tuning into our podcast, and we are coming to you from Chicopee, Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining me is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours for Greater Holyoke, Robert Camus. He offers both public and private tours, as well as presentations of the local canal systems, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets in Holyoke, South Hadley, and Chicopee, Mass. Now you actually lead these tours and give these presentations yourself, is that correct?
Yes, and this is going to be a very special series.
And so today he'll be educating on is House Through Time tours. So tell us about the Holyoke House Through Time series.
Okay, this is going to be a series that will go on hopefully for years. There's so many nice homes in Holyoke. Of course, it's the Victorian homes, but there's also the Federal style homes, Georgian homes, so forth. And I started in the year 2022, and I'll talk about that. And I did one last week, 2023's edition. And I hope to keep going and going. But I want to change the way that I'm going to do it along the way, because I don't want to always be the one selecting them, and I want a great variety of homes and histories and places that people can really enjoy them. So the series will be about the house, the occupants of the house, and what they did for Holyoke, what they did for occupations, what they did among themselves, and how they changed the house physically on the outside and inside, and how they changed the landscape, and how the community right around there changed with time. And you think it's possible to keep yourself away from changes, but it's utterly impossible no matter what happens. And so we're going to talk about all these issues and a very special development that's happened for 2024 in this series.
So what homes have you selected so far?
All right, in 2022, I chose 141 Linden Street, and it turned out to be wonderful. There was 8 families that lived there. I covered 6 of them during the talks, 5 of them by names, the first 5. 3 of the 8 families showed up in great groups, and so it was very nice afterwards, because a lot of them stayed there for about half hour after talking to each other. And that home is special. It was started by William Sims, who owned Sims and Dudley Paper Mill. And when he left, it went out to other people. And I have a separate video and podcast and page just for that house, so you can look at that. The reason I chose it, it was so beautifully architecturally done by James Clough, who made that house, made his own workplace, made the Holyoke Library designs, and it turned out to be, everyone loved being there. I really ended up stressing one point, and that was what these groups did for Holyoke. And when I get into it, I never know what's going to happen. Maybe you'll stress the architecture, landscape, or photographs, or the type of people they were. And it ended up that I found out that they did great things for the community. One family, the Sells family, helped start up a milk station in Holyoke. It doesn't exist anymore, but as it ran through its approximately 24 years, it was great to talk about it. Very few people knew about it. And so when you get into it, you know what to stress. I did a similar program as Hadley, and I stressed photographs. And I knew ahead of time they had a lot of photographs taken, this family. And so I stressed that no one was expressing them besides the photograph. And so I brought them to life in some form by looking at the house, talking about the house and the people in the family that lived there. Now, in the year 2023, I chose another house, this one on Chestnut Street. It happens to be the Holyoke Day Nursery. It's been that for 107 years. It's been in that house for 104 of those 107 years. But before that, it was a James Newton house, probably built by his brothers. And so I talked about that family, whoever lived there, including his 4 children, and he had many grandchildren. 3 of them happened to have been born there and lived there. So I talked about what they did in life. Then I talked about the Holyoke Club, which came in there for about 9 years after him. And then the Holyoke Day Nursery came in, and I showed them a lot of pictures. And so next year I'm going to be stressing something a little different, and I'll tell you about that next.
So quickly before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. In there he has both videos of the various stops along each tour and also past and present photos of the historical sites throughout as well. And if you are interested in setting up a private tour, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And they are perfect for fun and educational outdoor activities for the whole family or for your group parties, especially those special occasions and get-togethers. And they are also good just for getting outdoors for the day. So getting back to our interview, what houses are on top for 2024?
Okay. Now, in that year, what I'm going to do in Holyoke is I'm going to allow audience participation in the sense that people get to send in a house that they own and live in Holyoke, and that is at least 100 years old in 2024. And that might, and they'll compete against others, and hopefully I'll choose the one that has some kind of composition of the best architecture or the best interest in history or what the people in the house did for Holyoke in a positive sense. So people get to send in their entries by email to me, write up a paragraph about what you think of the house and why it's important, where it is, and I can check that it's truly 100 years old. And so far, I started the entries in mid-November, and they'll run to mid-January of 2024. So that's about 8 weeks or a little more. And so far, I got one entry after about 9 days, and so hopefully I get more. And then I'll choose the best one, the one the most instructive, the one most interesting to people, and then have another presentation next year, or end November 2024. And hopefully the third entry in the house through time in Holyoke will be as good as the last two. And and if, you can't fool me, so I know ways of checking that it's truly 100 years old, and I know some of the history of these things. I can do simple checks. So I would do that in each house and then pick a winner in mid-January and tell everyone that entered why I picked that one.
So why do people enjoy house history?
Because you get to see who lived in a particular house, why it was designed a certain way, and people tend to like that because it's joining together two things: genealogy and local history. You start to understand why the house was even put there, what is important about the neighborhood, including the immediate neighborhood around the house, and what people in the house might have did for the community, or or if they're just workers, what life was like in that community, or if there's something special, a lot of photographs, a lot of changes to the house, see if they're positive. And these things, people that love local history tend to love to see the changes. People that love genealogy get to see where these people are coming from and where they're going off to. But they might have came from other countries, and so I get to tell a story there. And then you see what they did for community in a positive sense. And then you see the other families and how those families might have been also given a lot to the community or had interesting lives to them.
So thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours, and we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can also tune into a large selection of our other podcasts and much more at his website. Again, that's holyokecanaltour.org. And again, you can email him directly for private tours or to inquire about anything else at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And be sure to keep an eye out for his upcoming 2024 season tours and more as they become available. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carrie, and I'm here with Robert, who does the historical tours of Greater Holyoke. He does the canals, churches, cemeteries, reservoirs, parks, houses and streets in Holyoke, Chicopee, and South Hadley, Mass. You can check out his website for more information on his tours and look at some of the videos and photos he has at holyokecanaltours.org. You can also email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And today we're going to talk about a house in Holyoke through time at 181 Linden Street. Now, you started a new series of presentations this year in 2022. Is it called A House in Holyoke Through Time, described what a series will be about.
Okay, I hope that every year from 2022 onwards, we'll choose one house in Holyoke and describe its history as a house. And that can take lots of points of view, depending upon what information shows up. And so I chose this beautiful house, and I went through a presentation on it. The series will include once in a while houses in South Hadley and in Chicopee along the way. In 2022, there was also a house that I chose in South Hadley, and that was a 5 Wallace Street. And on that one, I stress very much the family, because the family that lived there had taken so many photographs of both the house and the family. And I wanted to be able to present them to the public. It was called the Scott family. The house is now about 180 years old. Only 2 families have ever lived there through the 180 years. So I got to meet the present family, and I got to present the whole Scott family, which was incredible. There were probably 120 pictures. I probably used 30 of them during the presentation. And so it was very photograph based.
Now, so why did you select the Linden Street house for the first year?
Because it's a great, beautiful house on the outside. You should have an elaborate tower. And also because of this reason. When I started researching it, I found out that all the families that lived there contributed greatly to Holyoke as a community. For instance, one of the families was a family of medical doctors. Another family was a family of medical doctors. Another family has started up a mill, but then they continued that, and the wife in the family had the landscape designed by the Olmsted brothers, and I was doing the Olmsted brothers in Holyoke last year anyways. Another family started up what was called the Holyoke Municipal Milk Station, and this was a program where poor families could bring their children there, and newborns up to 1, 2, 3 years old could get free milk that was pure, because they weren't getting pure milk from the dealers who were trying to sell them dirty milk.
Now, what house is on tap for the year of 2023?
159 Chestnut Street in Holyoke, and that was James Newton's house. James Newton was the richest person Holyoke ever had. He was the most important person Holyoke ever had. He sponsored 30 plus mills in Holyoke, or ran them, or somehow financed them. He was the billionaire among the millionaire mill owners. He was richer even than William Skinner, the silk owner. He actually financed William Skinner. And James Newton, with his brothers, 3 brothers, Daniel, John, and Moses, ran so many mills in Holyoke and made it into the great city it is. And I hope this home stays there. It's 2 homes beyond Circle K along Chestnut Street, and it's on the left. It's now the Holyoke Daycare. It's been the Holyoke Daycare for 107 years. And so I'm going to talk about not only James Newton, not only the Holyoke Club, which came second, but the 107 years of the Holyoke Day Nursery.
Now, what was your inspiration for this presentation of A House in Holyoke Through Time?
The BBC of Great Britain started 5 years ago a television show called A House Through Time. And I watched 2 of the series. They're 4 hours or 4 episodes. I was able to watch series 1 and 4, and I was inspired by how well it was done. How they talked about the people who lived there and what happened to them as people, what they did for the community, or some of the scandals or tragedies that happened along the way. Of course, you may think that the world is going to stop still for you. You may think that the world is not going to affect you. But by watching the show, you are proven wrong. The world comes to get you no matter what you try to do.
Now, so what did you stress on at 181 Linden Street the most? You could stress the house as a structure, the people with pictures, the people's personalities, or the work of the people?
On this one, at 181 Linden Street, as I went into it, I always keep open-minded. One of those four I'll stress the most. Whatever it develops, whatever most material comes through has. A house as a structure, I'm going to actually, on Chestnut Street, do it mostly as a house for structure. That's the way I think it is. If a lot of pictures come through, I'll do it that way. If people's personalities or scandals, tragedies come up that way, I'll do it that way. But the work of the people on 191 Linden Street really inspired me, and so that's what I stressed. And a lot of people showed up for this presentation at the Holyoke Library in November of 2022. What's going to happen for the Chestnut Street one, I think will be the structure at this point, but it could change. It won't happen to November of 2023. At 5 Walnut Street in South Hadley, I concentrated on the pictures because that one came up the greatest. So thank you very much.
Okay, Robert, thank you for sharing with us. And again, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltours.org, or you can also email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, @yahoo.com. And you can also check out some of the other podcasts we have. Thank you.